Welcome everybody to my channel. I am so happy to have y'all here. My name is Cloud, the Dragon Sage, and this is my first video, and I want to just introduce myself and my path. So what is the path of the dragon? Well, basically, it is being a friend to dragons. I call myself a dragon sage rather than a dragon mage or a dragon magician for that matter, because I'm at a stage where I am honoring first and foremost, before I even get into the intentionality and ritual of the magical practice, I'm really honoring the relationship that I share with my dragons. Throughout the years, I've been through many trials, many fires, many tribulations, and I'm sure that you have as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have clicked this video. But now I've come to a point where I really am putting God first and putting my relationship with God first. And God to me is the great omnipresent divinity from which we've all come, to whom we're all going back to, and the true origin for the omniverse. And I say omniverse because not just the universe, the omniverse, which means all of the universes. And I like to really distinguish that. Dragons, to me, in my experience, dragons are the first beings who came from this origin point of God. Many of you may know of the Seraphim, who are known in Christianity as the highest league of angels, which is right below God. Many of you may also know that Seraphim actually is translated to fiery burning serpents or something along those lines. That is a big hint. However, I'm not going to say that Seraphim and dragons are the exact same thing, so don't quote me on that. But I'm simply stating the similarities present so that you can be aware of them as well. And of course, I understand completely that the Bible is a book that has been changed for as long as it has been present in humanity's history. I get that, and I totally understand that. With that being said, there are some very valuable gems inside the Bible, inside the Nag Hammadi scriptures, inside the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. There are some, especially the books that were conveniently left out of the Bible. So just keeping that in mind and knowing that, knowing that we're coming from a place of balance, a place of neutrality and a place of balance. That is actually what these dragons are really all about. And now when you meet a dragon, it's unmistakable. If you meet a being that appears to be a dragon, but you don't feel this feeling of unshakable faith that you are in a dragon's presence, then they're not a dragon. It goes by that instinct and that intuition, and it's unmistakable. When I say unmistakable, I mean unmistakable. You are conversing with a dragon. There's a very, very deep and profound purity inherent in dragons as a collective, as a species, if you will, that comes from the fact that they are so directly from God, from that they are pure emanations of that. And it's not to say, I'm not saying that all dragons are aligned in a way that is I don't even know how to put this, but aligned in a way that is congruent with the great omnipresent divinity. However, we also need to keep in mind that the great omnipresent divinity's greatest joy is found in the fulfilling and fulfilled free wills of all sentient beings. Dragons are the beings that have come from God and emanated from God without being absorbed by God, and yet are still the closest beings to God. And now, before I go any further, I want to make it very, very well known to everybody watching this video that when I talk about God, I'm not talking about any God from any religion. I'm talking about the God who and which we have all come from, the creator, sustainer, and redeemer of the omniverse. That unnameable being who I call the great omnipresent divinity, the God. That's why I refer to this being as God. It just feels very, very natural to me to do so. And when I say omnipresent, as I said a little bit before, this being is within the hearts of all that exists. All that exists. That doesn't mean just in this universe. It means in all universes. This being, this source, this origin from which we've all come and to whom and which, because it's a thing too. It's not just a who, it's a thing, it's a force, it's an origin, it's a birther, there's not a word for it. And that's how I know that I'm really talking about it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But anyways, this being supersedes all peoples, all cultures, all animals, all plants, all fungi, all animate and inanimate life forms. All right. And when I say life forms, I'm not talking about just the beings that Western science has considered life. Not just plants, not just animals, not just fungi, but rocks, the air, fire, water for sure. Let me tell you something about water. But that's for another video anyways. But God is the source and the life force that animates all of that. Okay. So my relationship with my dragons consists of submission to God alongside my dragons. All right. And let me say too that dragons don't want to be worshipped. They don't even really, in my experience, they don't even really receive offerings. They don't want to receive offerings consistently, like physical offerings, because the best offering that you can ever give them is you being your best self and really doing that. Like in my experience, I've given them candles and flames and I've said take of this flame, please. Let me just say that Working Dragon Mystic is a great resource and a great teacher, great mentor to check out here on YouTube. If you want to learn about dragon magic and about relationships and friendships really with dragons, because y'all, it's about friendship. It's about being a friend. First, second, and last. Okay. Because if you're not doing the inner work and if you're not being a friend to yourself, then what good is an offering to any spirit if you're not really being a friend to yourself and talking to yourself the way that you would talk to a friend? You know what I mean? Because dragons, your guardian dragon will call you out on your bullshit so quickly. So quickly. And in my experience, the guardian dragon is a little bit more lenient and a little bit more softer than the co-magician will be, but they still gonna call you out on that shit no matter what. So if I haven't said it already, a dragon sage and a dragon mage, they overlap. But a dragon sage is, to me, I don't even know if beginner's the right word or the right vernacular that I should use, but I'm at a place. All I know is that I'm at a place. I'm at a place where I am choosing consciously to form a relationship and a friendship, to remember the relationship and the friendship that I have with my guardian dragon, with my co-magician, before I get into ritual magic with them. So I consider myself a dragon sage. And friendship, like I said, friendship is the foundation of this. Friendship is the greatest gift that anybody can give you, and the greatest gift that you can give yourself too. It's why, like, I have done angel magic before, and when I do those rituals, which, yes, I call on my dragons to join me in that. However, I don't go into strictly dragon magic because they are powerful beings. And when you have that level of power blended with the level of free will that they also have, because angels don't have the same kind of free will that we have or that dragons have. When it comes to angels, they are more about, they're kind of like an artificial intelligence that God has brought forth to humanity. They're emanations of God. So it's not that they can't disobey or they can't get into their own free will, because they can. But it's just a touchy subject because there are different types of angels, and I'm not even going to act like I understand that. But anyways, when it comes to working with dragons strictly and only working with dragons, I'm not at that level yet, because their free will matched with their raw energy, their raw dragon energy, also connected with just their proximity to God. It's a very powerful working. And I'm taking my time with my friendship with them and with myself, because when a dragon shows up to you, like I said, it'll be unmistakable. Really unmistakable. How did I come about dragons? Let me correct myself, because I didn't come about them. It's just that they've always sort of been with me. And wait a second. Let me correct myself again. Because it's not even that they've been around here waiting for me in the same way that angels would be and are. But it's more that my soul has certain markers in it that have been placed by the God. And my guardian dragon and my co-magician souls, they also have those certain anchors within them that have been placed within them by the God. And when those anchors are activated, it's kind of like magnets. When they're activated by my free will, like my anchors, my magnets will be activated by my free will, and my dragons will be activated by their free wills. That's when the real workings and the real magic and the real friendship really begins. Okay, so let's get into my personal dragon awakening. It started around the year 2001 when I had gotten a PlayStation 2 and Spyro Year of the Dragon. I was only 6 years old then, but the Spyro Year of the Dragon game came out the year prior, 2000, the first year of the new millennium. Now, this year was a special year because it was the year of the metal dragon, which is a very powerful being in Chinese astrology and in Eastern astrology in general. Now, this school of thought, this school of astrology coincides with Jupiter's orbit around the sun, which Jupiter, well, not around the sun, but with Jupiter's transit around the Earth as we perceive it. So Jupiter spends 1 year in each sign approximately, right? Yeah. So it takes Jupiter a full 12 years to traverse the 12 signs of the zodiac. All right. So when it comes to Chinese astrology, it's based on a 12-year cycle. And for those of y'all wondering, I am personally, by year, I am a wood pig. Yes, I am. 1995. It's an amazing year, I know, but you know. Anyways. I love playing Spyro. It was such a fun game. And the soundtrack, incredible. I forgot what his name was, but the guy from Sting did the soundtrack for it, and he did his thing on it, man. And I gotta say that it was really revolutionary for video game music. And I'm not a video game music pro or anything like that or anything of that nature, but To me, that soundtrack was revolutionary. And the way that they updated it for the Reignited trilogy, whoo! So that's a little bit of how I started on the path and how I started really loving dragons. I also read various dragon-themed books like Cornelia Funke's or Funke's. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name. Her book, Dragon Rider. Honestly, like I tried to give the animation, the movie, a chance, and it was just not the same. They did, in my opinion, I'm just gonna say they did not do it justice, because as a child, I remember reading the book and being transported to this beautiful magic land with Fire Drake and with Sorrel and with Ben, but the movie just didn't do it. It didn't do it for me. It didn't do it. And as an author, like, it just saddens me. I was also very much into the book Dragonology. That was an amazing book that talked about like different dragons in different lands. And I'd love to see an expanded edition that cites blackdrago.com. If y'all haven't been on Black Drago, it's an amazing website that lists dragons from all over the world. Something that I did as I was getting onto the dragon path, which was started in 2015, and then around 2020, I was like really getting into it. I came back around to it in 2020. But then this year, really, 2024, was when I really started to take it seriously. Really seriously. And sometimes that happens. So don't be afraid or ashamed or doubtful if it takes you some time, because sometimes the sage or the mage is not ready for the dragon path. It's a lot of energy to be on this path, really. There are so many different religions and so many different ways of life that are out here. And even as somebody who's multiracial, I felt split. I'm not gonna lie. And I needed something to unify me. And I'm not gonna say like that the dragon path is the thing that has done that, but it's one of the things that, due to the dragons being so purely from the great omnipresent divinity and being inherent in literally all cultures across the world, that shows a commonality for me that I could really get down with. But y'all, so if you loved dragons as a child, and even if you loved dinosaurs as a child, if you loved reptiles as a child, that might have been a sign that you were meant for the dragon path. And like I said, there's no shame involved. I'm not going to say there's no shame, because I don't want to shame you into not feeling shame. You know what I mean? And that's a very real thing. It's a very deep thing that I have felt before many, many times. Like shaming myself into not feeling shame. It's deep. But anyways, don't feel like you're not enough. Man, maybe even do feel like you're not enough. Because maybe that was how I felt at the time in 2015 when I was given irrefutable proof that dragons exist in this 3D realm here, right now. Not just in a clairaudient, in a clairsentient, in a claircognizant, in a clairvoyant way. Not just in that way, but in a way that they can make themselves known to those who they have found that the balance of the omniverse would not be thwarted if they knew of their existence. All right. And it's a very deep thing, because dragons are all about keeping balance. They're all about keeping balance throughout all the multiple timelines, the multiple possibilities, the multiple pathways that we can take as free-willed beings. I also think that this is why so many mythologies and so many stories say that you cannot meet a dragon unless you are the pure of heart. And what pure of heart actually means is that your heart has the ability to transmute. And everybody's does have that. We all have that inherent within us. And I'm not going to say that nobody is more likely to transmute that than anybody else, because dragons know that the whole thing, the whole omniverse is a great unfolding of happenings that can really not be predicted. We can look into and tap into certain timelines and stuff like that But as for predicting it and as for knowing certainly which one it's going to be, we cannot ever know that. That's up to God, the great omnipresent divinity, the source, the origin point. You know what I mean? I'm going to make videos that sort of can serve as a foundation. And y'all, this path is very variable. You can do, I'm not going to say you can do whatever you want, but because there's rules to this. And like, for example, dragons have a culture. They have names that they're probably not going to tell you. Their names are very deeply sacred to them, and they're it's more than taboo to say a dragon's true name or to share a dragon's name with anybody. It's more than taboo. It's disrespectful, is what it really is. And so there are rules, and that's just an example of one of the rules that are a part of this. Now, that free will makes it very complicated, and it makes it very beautiful at the same time. It does, because it makes it so that it's varied. And that was the greatest gift that the great omnipresent divinity could have ever given us, was free will. The ability to choose to co-create, to choose to co-create with God, to allow that to come through us, to allow ourselves to be lucid of what is within us and amongst us. Right? It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. However, it also means that there's going to be variation in the world. There's going to be evil, for lack of a better term. When it comes to contending with that, it's never outside of us. That's really the first rule, and the most important rule is it's never really truly outside of us. It's always something inside of us. When it comes to that free will, if you're like me and a people pleaser and you've been conditioned by parents or by guardians unconsciously or consciously, then free will is going to be a very important lesson for you to learn, and really getting to know who you are. That's a part of the dragon path immediately in any ways, getting to know who you really are. We exist in relation, only in relation to one another. Now, holding that balance is where we can show ourselves who we really are. When it comes to the conditioning that we've received, the onslaught of conditioning that we've received from the society around us, being who we are becomes a sort of fulfillment of our destiny, really. And there are ways that destiny has been written, and there are ways that our free will intersects with our destiny. But I mentioned parents and I mentioned guardians, and I wanted to say that, speaking of guardians, I'm glad that I said that word, because guardian dragons are probably the most important dragon that you're going to meet on this path. Guardian dragons have been assigned to us by the great omnipresent divinity within us and around us. It's a divine court, okay, that assigns this to us by way of God's witnessing. God witnesses like every single person and their guardian dragon. Like, before they have fulfilled their free will sort of quota, before they fulfilled that, God witnesses that journey. The great omnipresent divinity witnesses that, because it's omnipresent, it's everywhere, like it's always being witnessing that, because it's in all of us too. And when it comes to our guardian dragons, these beings know us very well. They're never gonna bullshit us. In my experience, my guardian dragon is kind to me. That's what I could say. You know what I mean? I can't speak for everybody, but they're gonna be true to us, because that's one of the keys of the Dragon Code. And speaking of the Dragon Code, let me recite it to y'all real quick. Virtue, I am. Honor, I follow. Justice, I command. Valor, forth evil. Truth is my destiny. Trust is my clarity. Honesty is my morality. Patience is my faith. Grace is my guidance. Repentance is my peace. Redemption is my throne. Gratitude is my respect. Love is my home. This is why I am one as friend with dragons. And you could also add on "and God" if you want to at the end of that. I do that sometimes because, you gotta give credit where it's due too, to God too, because God is God. You know what I mean? None of this would be here without God. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, so I'll be making some videos that get into each of these phrases and their meanings, but it's very simple because the two words that are being compared are linked. And by you linking them, you're creating a bridge within yourself. 6 of those phrases were provided to me by Voice of the Dragons here on YouTube. Great channel. So check his stuff out. And like I said before too, Working Dragon Mystic as well. 6 of those were provided to me by Voice of the Dragons here on YouTube. And the other 7 I was led to by my Guardian Dragon and my co-magician. The sum 13 of them in total cover the character of dragons and of dragon sagacity. So the dragon path is a path that is very personalized for you. And I feel that dragons, since they were the first beings from God, from the great omnipresent divinity, they can adapt to any path that you're on. They don't have prejudice towards any way. It's just got to be honorable. You know what I mean? It's just you can't be doing evil shit, obviously. And they have a really deep love for us that they really want to express. But what must come first before the love from us? We can love them, but it's never going to be true love unless we respect them first. And with dragons, humans have had a very bloody history with them that involved genocide of them. So we need to consider that when we're working with them. This is why Sagehood is so important to work before Magick. Because when it comes to building a friendship with them, you really need to be solid with them in that way before you start the magic workings. Because what happened was basically that we use them. We basically use their magic without giving them the respect that they deserve. And we basically torture them and use them as batteries. We're in a phase of healing that. And if you look at the earth now, we're doing the same thing to the earth right now. And when it comes to the earth was seeded with life by the dragons. Man, they got so much respect for us and so much love for us. And just the way that we have been really fucking up shit on the planet, man, it's not good. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. So what do we do about that when these major corporations are the big main culprits? What we have to do is we have to find community and we have to care about each other. Something else about dragons that is so sacred and that is so beautiful is that what they really worship on a heart level is the sacredness and the joy in a child's eyes, man. The childlike love, the childlike wonder, that's the word, wonder, the dream, the knowing, the being tapped in that children have naturally. And that animals have too, to a different kind of extent. When you're on a spiritual path and when children and animals know you and they see you when you're just out in public doing things, know that means something. If we humans were made in God's image, then dragons were made in God's voice. One thing that I know for myself is when I was shown this irrefutable proof that dragons do indeed exist in this 3D realm, and they can show themselves to you in this 3D realm if they so choose, and if the balance of the omniverse is not thwarted by them showing themselves to you. And when I say the balance of the omniverse, that has to do with the free will of all beings, of the all-ness, basically. But when you get a taste of that dragon, it's almost kind of like you can't not chase it one day. Like, you can use your free will to choose not to for a while, even if it's until the end of your life in this life. But because dragons are such a primal and primordial and ancient, deep friend, really, to humanity, you can't really, like, it's destiny. Like, it's destiny. And I know I'm talking a lot about free will too, because that matters just as much. They go together. It may take years, it may take lifetimes, like I said, but one day, yeah, it's probably gonna happen. And I'm not gonna say it's definitely gonna happen, because I'm just sharing my experience and the way that I feel with you. So I hope you like it. So getting back to the purity of heart. All right. It's not just that you don't do anything bad or you don't have flaws. Everybody has ways that we wish that we could do better, right? And the more that we are real with ourselves about those ways that we could do better, the closer we inevitably get to actually doing better and actually being better. The purity of the heart thing that is told in many myths about dragons. For example, the myth about knights slaying a dragon. Oftentimes it's said that only a knight with a pure heart can slay a dragon. And y'all, the slaying thing, originally what that meant was like seeing the dragon and being on a eye contact level with the dragon. That's what that originally meant. But there were people in power in the churches and stuff like that took and twisted stuff for power and for money. And I won't even say wealth, but money and power. What they thought was power. It's not really power because they are very powerless. That's why they did it in the first place, right? But anyways, what I want to get to is a quote by Parthenax from Skyrim. He is a dragon who has chosen by his free will and by his discipline to tame his draconic temptations as portrayed in the game, because that's not the way that dragons really are, but as portrayed in the game, and to cultivate his more peaceful, tranquil ways of life. And he's chosen to like meditate daily and to tame himself. So he studies the way of the voice. And I also don't think that it's coincidence that these games, these video games like Skyrim, like Spyro the Dragon, like not just video games, but also television series like Dragon Tales, they are telling us things about dragons that we can wake up to if we so choose to. I mean, it's not like it's all of it is 100% true, obviously, but yeah, they're telling us things about dragons that we could tap into and we can communicate with our guardians about to kind of translate past the fodder of it. The quote by Parthenax is this:
I have overcome my nature only through meditation and long study of the way of the voice. No day goes by where I am not tempted to return to my inborn nature. Zincriforwut se suyech. What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
So I think that quote can sort of sum up what it means to actually be pure of heart. On that final note about the purity of heart, I'm going to end this video. If anybody has anything to say in the comments, please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the video. I'm also going to be making some videos on how to communicate with your dragon language, dragon runes, which were channeled by Isidon Goldwing in 2001, which are very powerful and real. Yeah, so let's create a community. Let's get going with this stuff, because y'all, dragons want to work with us. And with all of the stuff that's happening right now in the world, especially at the hands of the US government, right? That's what's really been going on in the world. We can make a difference with our magic and with our connection to God and with our friendship with the dragons. And the dragons want to help us. But we got to help ourselves first. And we got to get to a place of real self-respect and real self-love that has to be founded on the respect. I also am going to post a link below to a self-respect meditation, a guided meditation of self-respect that you can listen to and enjoy yourselves. Peace be with you all, and I thank you very much for watching.